So my company right now is focused primarily on the development of castor derivatives. So what that means is we're taking materials like these are samples of castor oil. This is actually a sample from 2019 when I was still in North Carolina, and I grew it as a hobby plant. And this is a sample actually just received from a future supplier in India uh, that that just came in, and I'm going to have them cross-referenced to compare the chemistry between the two of them. I want to see whether or not they have the same chemical structures, whether or not they're as bioactive or bioreactive as they should be. Castor is naturally antimicrobial and antifungal and all sorts of other things, antibacterial. It's an amazing compound, and we used to use it for a lot of other purposes, but with the advent of petroleum, of course, we lost interest. But certainly, as we address climate change and as we try to shift to renewables, one of the things that we're going to have to revisit is, biologically sourced materials, biologically sourced feedstocks. My company is currently aiming for the personal care, cosmetics, and food additives markets. Uh, our flagship product right now is PGPR. It has the Euro number E476, full name polyglycerol 3 polyricinoleate. It's the three chain uh, polymer of polyglycerol and polyricinoleate. What that means is it looks kind of like a large snowflake if you were to look at the molecular structure, and it's used as an emulsifier. So eggs are a good emulsifier. If you're not familiar with the term, PGPR is also a good emulsifier. You may have heard of soy lecithin. That is also an emulsifier. Uh, they have similar properties, but they are used for different purposes. PGPR is in actually a number of different things. If you have certain shampoos, hair conditioners, if you're using certain face products, creams, moisturizers, sunblock has it. If you're using lipstick and lip gloss, some of those have PGPR. It's also in a number of foods. So it's most prominent in chocolate, but you also find PGPR in things like buttery spreads, breads, and pastries. You also find it in ice cream, and you find it in other confectionaries. Uh, I've heard rumor, I'm still looking for this, but I've heard rumor that there are actually ranch dressings out there now that have PGPR, which wouldn't surprise me because it's an emulsifier. What it does is it takes water and fat and it puts them very close to each other, and it keeps them very close to each other. The issue with water and fat is they like to separate. And so PGPR is a very useful product in the sense that it's incredibly good at keeping those things together. That's why it's used so much in chocolate. The alternative to using PGPR in chocolate is to use more cocoa butter, which cocoa butter is raised on plantations. It requires massive deforestation. All of these plantations are in impoverished communities where there's very little oversight uh, over how they're treated and how much of the revenue is actually going back to the farmers and the producers who have to tirelessly work the fields to recover the cocoa butter. And so it's really an issue not just of environment with deforestation and loss of biodiversity, but also it's an issue of society. How are we going to call ourselves morally superior when we're willfully ignorant of the plight of our southern neighbors in countries in Central and South America where cocoa butter is largely produced, as well as a few nations in Africa. And so PGPR solves a lot of those issues, especially if it's domestically produced. If it's produced in Texas from Texas-grown castor, we know exactly where that castor was. We know exactly what the growing conditions were. We know exactly who was in the field and how much they're being paid. We have federal mandates that require us to pay people appropriately for farm work and any other work. And so that differentiates PGPR in the sense that we would like it to be produced. as compared to many of the other emulsifiers out there. And that's just PGPR. You know, there are millions of different applications in the industrial lubricants, automotive and aviation, specialty chemicals, and intermediate chemistry for further chemical production. Think replacing petrochemicals with biochemicals. You know, there's an entire new industry to be born from Castor. And I truly believe that in the next decade or so, we're going to see massive expansion of castor production throughout the United States, especially in drought-stricken West Texas.